Yo.
25 of the highest rated novels you can read in 5 hours or less. The benefits of reading books are countless. Books have been proven to make us more empathetic, equip us to deal with uncertainty and anxiety, and help to prevent cognitive decline through middle age into our advanced years. With so many advantages, not to mention the fact that they give our eyes a much needed rest from backlit, digital screens, picking up a book is something we should all incorporate into our daily routines. However, making it through a hefty novel can seem like a daunting task. Business Insider teamed up with book review website and recommendation platform Goodreads to create a list of highly rated, popular, and culturally relevant fiction books which consist of 250 pages or less. The books were selected by Goodreads staff based on their high ratings and positive reviews from Goodreads users. Each entry on the list contains the book's page count, its average rating from Goodreads users, and a synopsis from the publisher. On average, it takes the average reader around 1 hour to read 100 pages, meaning that each of these novels can be read in under 5 hours. That's the same amount of time many people spend commuting to work each week, to put it into perspective. Scroll down to discover the 25 best books on Goodreads under 250 pages that can be read in 5 hours or less, ranked by user rating in ascending order. The End We Start From by Megan Hunter, 3.53 stars. Goodreads. In the midst of a mysterious environmental crisis, as London is submerged below floodwaters, a woman gives birth to her first child, Z. Days later, the family are forced to leave their home in search of safety. As they move from place to place, shelter to shelter, their journey traces both fear and wonder as Z's small fists grasp at the things he sees, as he grows and stretches, thriving in content against all the odds. 140 pages. Check out The End We Start From on Goodreads here. The Buddha in the Attic by Julia Otsuka, 3.6 stars. Goodreads. Julia Otsuka's follow-up to When the Emperor Was Divine tells the story of a group of young women brought from Japan to San Francisco as picture brides nearly a century ago. The Buddha in the Attic traces the picture brides' extraordinary lives, from their arduous journey by boat, where they exchange photographs of their husbands, imagining uncertain futures in an unknown land, to their arrival in San Francisco and their tremulous first nights as new wives, to their back-breaking work picking fruit in the fields and scrubbing the floors of white women, to their struggles to master a new language and a new culture, to their experiences in childbirth, and then as mothers, raising children who will ultimately reject their heritage and their history, to the deracinating arrival of war. 129 pages. Check out The Buddha in the Attic on Goodreads here. All the Birds, Singing by Evie Wild, 3.62 stars. Goodreads. Jake White is living on her own in an old farmhouse on a craggy British island, a place of ceaseless rains and battering winds. Her disobedient collie, dog, and a flock of sheep are her sole companions, which is how she wanted it to be. But every few nights something or someone picks off one of the sheep and sets off a new deep pulse of terror. With exceptional artistry and empathy, All the Birds, Singing reveals an isolated life and all its struggles and stubborn hopes, unexpected beauty, and hard-won redemption. 24 pages. Check out All the Birds, Singing on Goodreads here. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, 3.63 stars. Goodreads. Area X has been cut off from the rest of the continent for decades. Nature has reclaimed the last vestiges of human civilization. The first expedition returned with reports of a pristine, idyllic landscape. All the members of the second expedition committed suicide. The third expedition died in a hail of gunfire as its members turned on one another. The members of the 11th expedition returned as shadows of their former selves, and within months of their return, all had died of aggressive cancer. This is the 12th expedition. 195 pages. Check Annihilation on Goodreads here. The Girl Who Lied by Sue Fortin, 3.67 stars. Goodreads. Aaron and Roisin were once friends until a fatal accident ruined both their lives. Now, Roisin has discovered a secret one Aaron has kept for over a decade, and she's determined to make Aaron pay for her lies. 244 pages. Check out The Girl Who Lied on Goodreads here. What We Lose by Zinzi Clemens, 3.67 stars. Goodreads. Raised in Pennsylvania, Thandi views the world of her mother's childhood in Johannesburg as both impossibly distant and ever-present. She is an outsider wherever she goes, caught between being black and white, American and not. Interesting and unsettling prose, we watch Thandi's life unfold, from losing her mother and learning to live without the person who has most profoundly shaped her existence, to her own encounters with romance and unexpected motherhood. 213 pages. Check out What We Lose on Goodreads here. The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes, 3.7 stars. Goodreads. A novel so compelling that it begs to be read in a single sitting, with stunning psychological and emotional depth and sophistication. The Sense of an Ending is a brilliant new chapter in Julian Barnes' oeuvre. This intense new novel follows a middle-aged man as he contends with a past he has never much thought about until his closest childhood friends return with a vengeance, one of them from the grave, another maddeningly present. 150 pages. Check out The Sense of an Ending on Goodreads here. Moonstone, The Boy Who Never Was by Sjan, translated by Victoria Cribb, 3.71 stars. Goodreads. Monty Stein is queer in a society in which the idea of homosexuality is beyond the furthest extreme. His city, Reykjavik in 1918, is homogeneous and isolated and seems entirely defenseless against the Spanish flu, which has already torn through Europe, Asia, and North America and is now lapping up on Iceland's shores. The story of a young man on the fringes of a society that is itself at the fringes of the world at what seems like history's most tumultuous, perhaps ultimate moment. 142 pages. Check out Moonstone, The Boy Who Never Was on Goodreads here. The Hen Who Dreamed She Could Fly by Sun Mi Hwang, translated by Victoria Cribb, 3.71 stars. Goodreads. This is the story of a hen named Sprout. No longer content to lay eggs on command, only to have them carted off to the market, she glimpses her future every morning through the barn doors, where the other animals roam free, and comes up with a plan to escape into the wild and to hatch an egg of her own. An anthem for freedom, individuality, and motherhood, featuring a plucky, spirited heroine who rebels against the tradition-bound world of the barnyard. The Hen Who Dreamed She Could Fly is a novel of universal resonance that also opens a window on Korea, where it has captivated millions of readers. 142 pages. Check out The Hen Who Dreamed She Could Fly on Goodreads here. Goodbye, Vitamin by Rachel Kung, 3.72 stars. Goodbye Vitamin. Goodbye, Vitamin is the wry, beautifully observed story of a woman at a crossroads, as Ruth and her friends attempt to shore up her father's career. She and her mother obsess over the ambiguous health benefits in the absence of a cure of dried jellyfish supplements and vitamin pills, and they all try to forge a new relationship with the brilliant, childlike, irascible man her father has become. 208 pages. Check out Goodbye, Vitamin on Goodreads here. Department of Speculation by Jenny Alfel, 3.72 stars. Goodreads. Jenny Alfel's heroine, referred to in these pages as simply the wife, once exchanged love letters with her husband postmarked apartment. Of speculation, their code name for all the uncertainty that inheres in life and in the strangely fluid confines of a long relationship. As they confront an array of common catastrophes: a colicky baby, a faltering marriage, stalled ambitions, the wife analyzes her predicament. She muses on the consuming, capacious experience of maternal love, and the near total destruction of the self that ensues from it as she confronts the friction between domestic life and the seductions and demands of art. 179 pages. Check out Department of Speculation on Goodreads here. This Is How You Lose Her by Junot Diaz. 3.75 stars. Goodreads. On a beach in the Dominican Republic, a doomed relationship flounders. In the heat of a hospital laundry room in New Jersey, a woman does her lover's washing and thinks about his wife. In Boston, a man buys his love child, his only son, a first baseball bat and glove. At the heart of these stories is the irrepressible, irresistible Junior, a young hardhead whose longing for love is equaled only by his recklessness and by the extraordinary women he loves and loses. Artistic Alma, the aging Miss Laura, Magdalena, who thinks all Dominican men are cheaters, and the love of his life, whose heartbreak ultimately becomes his own. 217 pages. Check out This Is How You Lose Her on Goodreads here. The Great Passage by Shinmiura. 3.81 stars. Goodreads. Inspired as a boy by the multiple meanings to be found for a single word in the dictionary, Kohayaraki is devoted to the notion that a dictionary is a boat to carry us across the sea of words. But after 37 years creating the Majimbu books, it's time for him to retire and find his replacement. Award-winning Japanese author Shinmiura's novel is a reminder that a life dedicated to passion is a life well lived. 222 pages. Check out The Great Passage on Goodreads here. The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett. 3.81 stars. Goodreads. When the queen in pursuit of her wandering corgi stumbles upon a mobile library, she feels duty-bound to borrow a book. Aided by Norman, a young man from the palace kitchen who frequents the library, the queen is transformed as she discovers the liberating pleasures of the written word. A deliciously funny novella that celebrates the pleasure of reading. 120 pages. Check out The Uncommon Reader on Goodreads here.